Hi everyone. In this video, I'm going to go through the basics of web programming. I'm not going to go in depth. I'm just going to show you the basics. You can always come back and rewatch parts of the video or pause it and follow along if you'd like. So first things first, when we're creating a website, we always are going to use HTML. You might use a little JavaScript or CSS as well, but HTML is the basis of making a web page or a website. And in this class, we're going to use Notepad++ to write our HTML code. If you need to figure out how to download Notepad++, you can come into the course, come in here to HTML resources, and there's a link here that will tell you how to download Notepad++ onto your computer. It is free to use. All right, so I already have it on my computer. So to open it, I'm going to come down here into the search bar and I'm just going to start typing in Notepad. Here it is. It's the ++. Do not get this one. This one doesn't have nearly as many features. And I'm going to open Notepad++. All right, so as you can see, I'm starting off here with a brand new file and it's not saved anywhere yet. It doesn't know that Notepad++ doesn't know that this is an HTML file, so we're starting totally from scratch. All right. One thing that I want to do, and you will too, before you ever start a new web page or a website, you're going to need to create a new folder on your computer. So even if you have a one-page website, you still need a folder because the image files that are going to display on your web page have to be in the same folder where your HTML is. So I'm going to come over here into my desktop. I'm just going to right click. I'm going to say new folder. All right, you can name it whatever you want. I'm going to call this one HTML. We like to use underscores instead of spaces in coding, and I will call it example website. All right, so as you can see, there's nothing in it, of course, because we just made it, but I am going to go ahead and save this file into that folder. All right, I'm going to do it before I even put any code in here at all. So what I'm going to do is come up here to File. We're going to do a Save As, and I'm going to navigate over here to where that folder is, and I put it on my desktop. So here we go, and I called it HTML example website. So it's this one here. You've got to double click to open it, and now I'm going to name my HTML file. Now this is extremely important because every single website, whether it has one page or it has 30 pages, it has to be called index.html. So the beginning web page or your home page is always going to be called index.html. Make sure that it has a lowercase I, that it does not start with a capital I. And it has to have this .html file extension or it's not going to be recognized as a HTML file, which is what makes web pages and websites. All right. Do not have a .html. That is wrong. Every file should have only one file extension, and the file extension is this part right here that comes after the dot, and that just tells your computer and all of the applications what type of file this is. And this is HTML, which means hypertext markup language, which is what makes websites. If you do not name this correctly, later on in the semester, you're going to make a live web page. So you're going to make a website that's actually really out there on the internet. If you don't name it index.html with the lowercase I, then making it live is not going to work. All right, so this isn't just because I say so or I think this is the best way to do it. This is the correct way to do it so that your website will work well when you try to make it live or use it in other ways. So let's go ahead and click Save. All right, so one thing to note that's really important is with Notepad++, up here in the top, you're always going to see the full file path to where your file is. So, of course, the name of the file is index.html, so I'm looking up here at the top, and it's inside of that HTML example website folder that we made on the desktop, and that folder is in the desktop like it says. That's inside of a directory or a folder called milsteam4144, which is just my user folder on this computer. And that's in a users directory, which is on the C drive. So this is the full file path all the way from the drive, which is C, down to the file name, which is index.html. This is really important because sometimes you might have multiple websites saved on your computer, but and they each might have their own index.html. So you need to make sure that you're working on the index.html that's in the folder that you think it's in. All right, and this looks good. This is what we want. So now that I know that I've saved my file in the right place, and you can always come back and look inside that folder, and now we do have an index.html. I can tell that that's the file type because it says right here, Chrome HTML document. Why is my computer using Chrome to open this? It's because that is set as the default application on this computer to open HTML documents. All right, and just in case you guys don't know, you can right click on this file and come down to properties, and then it's going to show you all the details about that file, or I guess folder in this case. Let's see, I wanted to do it for this. All right, so the file is named index. It is a HTML document. Our computer is going to open it with Chrome. If you want to change the application that your computer uses to open a file, you can always click this button right here. All right, and we can see when it was created, last modified, all that good stuff. So I'm going to click OK, and the file's in the right place. Now what we've got to do is we've got to actually start writing some HTML code in here. So every time you create a brand new HTML document, you'll want to come back into our course, and under the HTML resources folder, we have this HTML skeleton. All right, so this is the basic code that's needed to start a new HTML file. I'm going to click it. I'm going to highlight everything in here. I'm going to hit Control-C to copy, and I'm going to come back to my Notepad++ document, and I'm going to paste it in. All right, so let's talk about what all this stuff means. This doc type up here, this is just saying that this is an HTML document. All right, and then we have a head section here. This head section has data that is important to the settings of your website, all right, or your HTML document. So this HTML document is using the English language. It's using a character set, which is called UTF-8. That just determines which characters, like on your keyboard, are going to be available to this web page. All right. And this part here, the page title, what that's going to do is that's going to change this little tab up here at the top that pops up when your website opens in a browser. All right, so this one has a little icon and it has the word document. What I'm going to do is I'm going to change mine to say something like example website. All right, very nice. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start working in the body of my website, and you'll learn about these tags as you read the Zybook. Essentially, some tags need an opening and closing tag. Like this head section right here, it has an opening head tag and a closing head tag. And the closing tag looks exactly like the opening tag, except it starts with the /. All right, so that's saying all of the information between here and here is in the head section. So anything that we want to show up on our web page needs to be between this opening body tag and the closing body tag. The only exception to that you're actually going to see on the page is the title. And remember, that's not the title of your web page. That's not going to be like in big bold letters at the top of your web page. It's going to control this little tab, whatever's in this tab right here. All right. So looking back at our index.html file, we do have a couple tags, 2 tags on here that came automatically with the skeleton. Now, we do not have to keep them. They're just for example purposes. So let's say we want to look at this web page right now as it is. Well, the first thing that I have to do is save it in Notepad++. So if you look up here on this tab, with the file name, there's a floppy disk out to the left. If that floppy disk is red, you have unsaved changes. If it's blue, everything has been saved. So right now it's red, we have unsaved changes, which makes sense because we pasted this text in, but we haven't saved it yet. The easiest way, I think, to save it is to click on this little blue floppy disk right here. It's the third icon in. All right, now our floppy next to the file name is blue, so we're good to go. Everything is saved. Now you might be wondering, how in the world do we get from this HTML code to actually seeing it as a web page? And the answer is very simple. I'm going to minimize this Notepad++, not going to close it. And now I'm going to go back into the folder where the HTML file actually is. All right, and here's the file, index.html. So whether you want to view the website using a web browser or whether you want to view the code behind it, it's all the same file. But whether you see it as a web page or whether you see it as the code depends on how you open this file. All right, if I just double click it, it's going to open with Chrome because that's the default application that opens these type of HTML documents. So all I have to do to see it as a web page is double click it. All right, nice. So let's see what we got going on here. Remember we said that it was going to change the title, which is actually this tab up here at the top. And it did. It calls it example website now, which is what we put in there. This little globe is just a default icon. If you don't change the icon, that's what's going to show up. All right. And then if you remember back in the code, we did have an H1 tag and we had a paragraph tag, right? A set. So we've got an opening and closing H1 tag, which is a heading, and we have an opening and closing P tag, which is our paragraph. So when we look at the actual web page, you can see here's that heading, right? Heading is bigger than a paragraph, so that's why the text is bigger. And here's the paragraph down here. And because those are the only tags that we have in between the opening and closing body tags, that's all that shows up on our page. Now you do have these lines of code here, and you'll notice that they're green and they have these kind of arrows coming out of them. These are comments, and comments are in every programming language. The way you write the comment might be different, but the action of it is the same. This is not rendered on your page, meaning you won't see it on your web page. It is not part of the HTML code like that's going to be turned into your web page. This is for human beings. All right, so this is for me, you, whoever else looks at your code to understand what's going on. And this one is saying your HTML tags will start here, which is correct because it's right inside the opening body tag. And then right before that body tag closes, your HTML tags will end here. Meaning that anything you want to show up on your web page, you'll need to create a new tag for it inside, right? So you'll be creating tags from here to before this last comment. Everything will be in here. All right. I'm not going to actually go through different tags and things like that because that's what your Zybook is for. The Zybook is going to actually teach you how to do the content of whatever module we're working on right now. Just know that you will have to be adding tags in here which will represent different HTML elements, which will create new elements on your web page. Now, let me show you guys this. So say this was closed. Say you were looking at your index.html file in the folder and you want to see the code. Well, if you just double click it, that's never going to give you the code. That's just going to continue to open it with the web browser. So how do you therefore come back and look at your code or work on your code? You'll need to right click this index.html. So right click on the file, or it has to be highlighted blue first. So click it one time to highlight blue. And then after you've clicked it once, right click on it, and we're going to open it with, we're going to edit with Notepad++. So there you go. And if that doesn't work for you, you can always just reopen Notepad++. And once you've got Notepad++ opened, it may still have it in there, but say it didn't, you could come up here to File, Open. You could, obviously, we're on our desktop. we're inside this folder. There's the file that we want to open with Notepad++. All right. So say you want to add an image onto your web page. Well, first thing you have to do is find that image and save it into this folder where the HTML file is. It has to be saved in the same folder where your index.html or whatever other HTML files you might have. It has to be saved in there. So I'm just going to go to the internet real quick. I'm going to look for a picture of a ragdoll cat, and this one looks good. So how do I get it from here into the folder? You're going to need to right click it, and I'm going to save image as. All right, this web BP file, that doesn't work very well with HTML, so I'm actually not going to use that one. The best type of image files to use are JPEGs or PNGs. I'm just going to go up here to images, find any one, right click, save image as. There we go, JPEG. That's what I'm looking for, or PNG. They work fine. So I'm going to name it ragdoll_cat. All right, and I need to put it inside of this HTML example website folder. The reason you don't see the index file in here right now is because it's only looking for image files, which is fine. The file's still there, we just don't see it. So I'm going to save that image file into that folder. I'm going to open the folder, make sure the file's in there, and it is. So now what we've got to do is we have to create an image tag. All right, so I'm just going to make a comment real quick, and I'm going to say image tag of ragdoll cat. All right, and the comment isn't necessary. It'll still work without it, but it can be helpful. So now I'm going to create my image tag, and you will see how to do this inside this iBook. Essentially, I'm going to open an image tag. I have to give it a source, and the source is going to be the exact file name of the file that I want to show. And it's called ragdoll_cat, and it's a .jpg. So ragdoll_cat.jpg. And then I do have to put that between a set of quotation marks. And then I need an alternate. So my alternate, these are called attributes, by the way, these little parts inside of the tag. So alternate is whatever text is going to show up on the screen if for whatever reason the image can't be shown. All right, so it usually needs to be a description of what is in the picture. So I'm just going to say ragdoll cat. All right. And now I'm going to close up my tag. The image tag is a standalone tag, meaning it does not require a closing tag. So you're never going to come in here and say, okay, now let me close this image tag. You will not do that. It doesn't need it, and it'll be wrong. So I've got my image tag in there. Of course, I need to save this. So I can see I got a red floppy, so I'm going to click up here on the Save Floppy Disk, third icon in. Now it turned to blue. My changes are saved, and now I can double click index.html, and let's see if we can actually see the picture of the cat. All right, perfect. So we can definitely see the picture of the cat. The dimensions or the size of the picture are actually not too bad. So if you did want to change that, of course, you look at the iBook. It's going to give you some information on how to make these tags.